Welcome back to Patrick Christie's Tonight. So, junior doctors, who are now, I think, are called resident doctors, today voted in favour of fresh strikes until January 2026. This is just 10 months after being handed a massive 22% pay rise by the government. The medics, now officially called resident doctors, voted 90% in favour of industrial action. They want a 29% pay rise. But Downing Street has flat out refused to reopen negotiations, saying we can't be more generous than we already have this year. I mean, last time they went on strike, and I'll bring my guest in now, it's GP David Lloyd. Thank you very much, David. Tremendous to have you on. Last time they went out on strike, there was like 1.5 million appointments cancelled. People will have died as a result. They got 22% pay rise. This is criminal, isn't it?
Well, it's not just about what's happening now in the NHS, it's about the future of the NHS I think we're all fighting for. If it costs £230,000 to train a resident doctor, and then they shove off to Australia because that's where they get paid a fair wage rather than a socialist wage in this country, is that a good use of money or a good way to solve things?
What are junior doctors paid?
A resident doctor who starts off is paid £15 an hour for a 48-hour week.
So I'm just having a little look at this now. So in their first year, the salary can be around 42 grand, apparently. Then in the second year, it could be about 48,000. Then we're getting up to, by the time they get to speciality doctors and specialists, we're looking at about 96,000 to 107. This is in the NHS, by the way, not if they go private. I mean, how many people do you know in other lines of work that start out on a salary of roughly £42,000 a year, £42,500 a year, and have a pretty much guaranteed chance at hitting the six-figure mark within a few years?
I think you'll find quite a lot of professions have that. My son's a policeman.
Yep.
He started on roughly that.
Right, and do you think he's underpaid?
I think so. You know, it's a very difficult job.
Do you not think they're better paid than a lot of people in the private sector who would probably not, after maybe 4 or 5 years, be on around 100 grand a year?
So in the private sector, it's acceptable to not accept a salary below the market rate. Do you think doctors should accept a socialist rate below the market rate?
I think a lot of people will fundamentally dispute your characterisation of that amount of money as a socialist rate. What about human care? So for their patients and everything, do you think that patients will have any sympathy as they are lying there dying for resident doctors walking out because they're not happy with their 22% pay rise?
They're still trying to catch up. They've swallowed a 25% real-term pay cut since 2008. So we're not talking about enormous quantities of money. In fact, the amount of money that is needed to restore what they've lost is, in fact, 1/3 of what the NHS spends on expensive locums, which is £3 billion a year. If you had a workforce that's actually paid for by the NHS at a good rate, you won't have to spend £3 billion a year on locums.
So if a resident doctor walks out on strike en masse and people die, you're all right with that, are you?
Well, the evidence is that on the last time they walked out on strike, there was no increase in mortality.
Yes, because missed appointments and all of that. So, for example, people I know that couldn't get cancer appointments because of it and everything, you will not class that in your figures as that having had a negative impact on their health. It's interesting, isn't it, that the doctors seem able to fudge the figures when it benefits them.
I'm not fudging the figures. I quite agree with you. There were 1.5 million cancellations due to the last strike, and that's an appalling state of affairs.
Yeah.
When the resident doctors, and I'm afraid, I was long time ago was I a resident doctor. The resident doctors are feeling the pinch, and they will walk. They will go to the
What do you earn?
And leave us alone.
What do you earn?
Well, I earn well over £100,000, but I've been at it.
Well, it's quite nice, isn't it? But this is the thing, isn't it? So basically, if you start out in a profession and you work your way up, you can get to a position where you as yourself is going to be incredibly comfortable and going to be incredibly comfortable for the rest of your life, even after you retire. That's a fair deal, Dr. David. I'm sorry, it's a fair deal. Isn't it? You there? I think he's gone. Can you hear me, Dr. David? OK, all right, we're going to leave that then. Yeah, OK, or it's convenient that, I would suggest. But anyway, GP David Lloyd there, who, despite being able to hear everything else I asked him, suddenly